and welcome back to another episode of Siebel CRM Update Highlights by the Siebel Hub. With the latest update of Siebel CRM, we've reached halftime for Siebel 22. Siebel CRM Update 22.6 was made available by my Oracle support on June 19th. While it comes, as usual, with a host of bug fixes, the sixth update for Siebel 22 does not have any official new features. This gives us a moment to catch a breath after the quite eventful first 5 updates of 2022 and to take a bit of time to review the most important features and enhancements delivered so far for Siebel 22. But first, let's see what's new with the 22.6 update package. As mentioned, there are no official features, but that doesn't mean that Oracle's been idle. The release notes, which are available with the download, lists quite a number of bugs being eradicated. So it's prudent to study the release notes and decide if an update to 22.6 is in order for your organization. Siebel Bookshelf 22.6 comes with a new guide entitled Deploying Siebel CRM Containers. This document describes the steps to download and deploy pre-built container images for Oracle's ARU, Automatic Release Update system, and was formerly available on my Oracle support only. Pre-built container images are currently under limited availability, and an ARU request is required via Oracle support to get access. The new bookshelf guide takes a slot of the OBE, Oracle by Example document for deploying Siebel CRM using Docker images on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure (OCI). This container option, also referred to as OCI Marketplace Image, has been removed from OCI earlier this year. Speaking of containers and cloud, let's quickly enumerate the current options for Siebel CRM customers who wish to containerize their Siebel CRM infrastructure. As of June 2022, you can choose from the following options. Option 1. Roll your own Docker images by following the examples on the Oracle Siebel GitHub repository. Option 2. Download and deploy pre-built containers from ARU as described in the new bookshelf guide. With the first 2 options, customers have to put in more effort but have free choice of the location, on-premises or a cloud of any origin, and the container platform, such as Kubernetes, OpenShift, or Docker. The next 2 options are tightly connected to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Option 3, Siebel Cloud Manager, SCM. This is an OCI marketplace stack, available on request, that allows customers to lift and shift existing Siebel CRM environments to OCI or run a greenfield deployment. We'll learn more about SCM in just a moment. Option 4. Oracle Cloud Lift Services. A professional service offered by Oracle, this option allows for the greatest levels of flexibility and ensures that even the most complex and demanding environments can be safely migrated to OCI. With the 22.6 update, new versions of Tomcat 9.0.60 and Zookeeper 3.8.0 are deployed, showing once more that a Siebel CRM update is not just about new features, but also important to stay close to safe and stable auxiliary software releases. The Siebel Hub CSI, Clandestine Siebel Improvements team, has spotted a subtle but possibly impactful change regarding the use of mouse wheels with Siebel list applets. You might recall that in Siebel 22.10, support for mouse wheel scrolling has been added, allowing users to get to the next or previous record set by a swift move of the wheel on their input device. After updating to 22.6, the ability to use the mouse apparently has been removed, as the list applet does not even flinch under the most intense wheel movement. What happened? Did Oracle pull back the feature? Thorough forensics on part of the Siebel Hub CSI team shows otherwise. With 22.6, the mouse wheel still works, but only if you press the Shift key while moving the wheel. Siebel CRM 22.6 is a minor release by all means, but remember that Siebel CRM updates are cumulative by nature. The older your current Siebel version, the more changes are introduced by the latest update, which includes the complete set of binary, schematic, metadata, and seed data programs that were introduced in the versions between. As promised, here's a recap of the most exciting features and enhancements in Siebel 22 so far. Let's begin with 22.1, which introduced the integration with Oracle CrowdTwist. Admittedly, this is only relevant for a select group of customers, but as so often, innovation goes deeper. Since the CrowdTwist integration relies on the Siebel outbound REST framework, 22.1 also fixes a long-time issue with hierarchical property sets being passed as input to the external request. Remember the Apache Log4j vulnerabilities? 22.1 and any version after it includes a full set of mitigations. Jumping ahead to 22.3, we find another important update in the REST area. Customers on 22.3 or higher benefit from the ability to run workflow processes directly through the Siebel inbound REST API. With 22.3, administrators engaging in the task of deploying changes from development to test or production environments using the Siebel migration application have to use a new command line to rename the repositories after full migration. Siebel Bookshelf is another part of Siebel CRM that's updated monthly. The attentive Siebel practitioner will ensure to use the correct bookshelf version and skim through the What's New chapters, or watch the Siebel Hub monthly updates. A good example for a documentation update is the addition of a chapter on cross-version migration to the Siebel 22.3 and higher database upgrade guide. In the April 22 release, Siebel Web Tools got one step closer to independence from Siebel Tools. With Siebel CRM 22.4 and higher, developers can now run the object validation utility from the comfort of their browsers. One less reason to log into Siebel Tools. Eliminate Siebel Tools dependencies is a line directly out of the Statement of Direction document, which was updated in April 22. This document is available to Siebel customers via Oracle support and a mandatory read for anyone with even the slightest interest in the future of Siebel CRM. Siebel Hub users can find a summary article on the April 22 Statement of Direction document. You can find the link in the description of this video. Integration developers working with Siebel REST will find the new query parameters and pre- and post-processing abilities helpful. April was quite a busy month, as Oracle also released Siebel Cloud Manager, SCM. With SCM, Siebel customers can lift and shift existing Siebel environments, 18.12 or higher, from their premises or from existing classic cloud deployments to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. SCM also supports greenfield deployments. The truly game-changing aspect of SCM is that the resulting architecture is based on Kubernetes cluster, with Siebel enterprise components such as AI, Gateway or Siebel Server, as well as auxiliary machines such as Load Balancer, managed as Kubernetes pods. In a future version, SCM will also support the Siebel Component Services (SCS) architecture, which is currently in beta, in which each individual server component is managed as a Kubernetes pod. Along with this architectural shift, the entire enterprise configuration in the SCM world is managed as YAML code with GitLab for version control. This applies to the CRM architecture, enterprise components as pods, as well as the SCS architecture, server components as pods. Changes to the configuration are made in the YAML files and are then propagated automatically to the environment. This technique is known as infrastructure as code, or GitOps, and with SCM it becomes the standard for administering a Siebel CRM enterprise. Siebel 22.5 is a real big one. The long-awaited data visualization components and dashboard feature is finally here and just a repository upgrade away. Repository upgrade is an optional step in the update process. Watch the video to the end to learn all about the process of updating development and higher environments. No stopping at dashing data visualizations. 22.5 also brings enhancements to the migration application. If you use 22.5 or higher, you can now abort running migration plan executions via UI or REST API, as well as query and delete migration history records and artifacts. If your organization is using Siebel Task UI, stay alert for changes in that area. The Statement of Direction document states that Oracle plans to support workspaces for Task UI in a future release. The impact will be similar to what we've seen with workflow processes, which have been moved to workspaces with 20.7. As long as tasks are outside of workspaces, administrators have to activate modified tasks after full or incremental migration. Oracle informs us that this is a manual effort, and references to using a business service to activate tasks have been removed in Bookshelf 22.5 and higher. Let's review the mandatory and optional steps for a successful update to the latest Siebel release. First, it's highly recommended to make a backup of the entire environment and the database that you're intending to update. Then the Modular Deployment Engine, MDE, needs to be run. It'll lay down the new files to disk. If your Siebel version is 21.1 or older, you'll also get a topology update to the MDE's unified directory structure. This applies to any enterprise server component such as AI, Siebel Server, or Gateway. It's also mandatory to run the post-install database update, which can be run automatically as part of the MDE or manually after the MDE is finished copying the binaries. This has to be executed once per database and applies schema changes and imports seed data and OpenUI manifest data into the target database. Make sure to check the post-install DB update HTML report and the log files and rerun in case of errors before you continue. There are also optional steps, which might or might not be applicable to your situation. The repository upgrade utility is optional. It can be run only against a development database. It should be run only if you intend to uptake the so-called non-mandatory changes made by Oracle. The repository upgrade utility will import schema changes, import seed data, and OpenUI manifest data, as well as create a developer workspace under an integration workspace named int_Siebel_update. In this developer workspace, the repository upgrade utility imports the repository artifacts. Developers can then inspect and test the Oracle manufactured objects and subsequently deliver them into your main branch or your any integration branch. The release notes contain configuration instructions which you might have to apply in your development environment if necessary. There are known issues reported in the release notes as well, so make sure you understand and apply the workarounds if necessary. And finally, there's a bunch of non-repository administrative changes which you might have to take care of. The complete update process, with all required and optional steps in green and gray respectively, is depicted on the diagram. Here we can see the update process for development environments, where the fast track to a successful update is as follows. Take a backup, run the MDE, run the post-install database update. If you have no repository upgrades, configuration instructions, or administrative changes to implement, you're done. If you need to execute the non-mandatory repository upgrade or apply configuration instructions, you have to do that in the development environment and test and deliver these changes. If you have any administrative changes on your to-do list, you have to implement them as well before declaring success. The same is true for test or production, also known as RR environments, where the update process is a little shorter. The mandatory steps are the same. Back up your environment, run MDE, run post-install database update. If there's nothing else to do, you're done. Of course, you have to repeat the update process for every Siebel instance. If the DR update included repository changes, you have to use the migration application to deploy the new and updated artifacts from the development environment to the runtime environment. Similar to the DR environment, you might have some administrative changes on your checklist that you need to execute before declaring the update complete. What if your Siebel CRM version is Innovation Pack 16 or older? Let's take a look at the path for an upgrade from a version prior to Innovation Pack 17 to the latest and greatest release. If your current Siebel CRM version is below IP17, you find yourself in the lower portion of the diagram. This means that you have to conduct an upgrade project to get to the latest Siebel release. The duration of a Siebel CRM upgrade project is measured in person months, sometimes person years. The project complexity and duration are tightly coupled to the number of customizations you've applied over the years, and also to the age of your Siebel application. In a nutshell, the more time and money was spent on customizing Siebel, the more time and money will have to be spent on the upgrade. If you come from a very old Siebel release, such as Siebel 7.5, you have to execute a two-step upgrade. One-step upgrades are supported from 7.8 up to 8.2. Upgrades from these ancient releases also require a migration from the ActiveX-driven high interactivity client to Siebel OpenUI. If you're on a younger version, such as Innovation Pack 13 to 16, you're on the Incremental Repository Merge (IRM) track, which is still a lengthy process but much more streamlined. You might not even have to migrate to OpenUI as you're already using it. Upgrade projects are conducted using an installation of latest Siebel CRM release available at the time you start the project. If you already ran a successful Siebel upgrade to IP17 or higher, you no longer have to run a lengthy, costly upgrade project. To get from a post-IP17 release to the latest available update, you only have to execute the aforementioned update process. The real benefit of Oracle's continuous release model is evident here, as the update process will at most take a few person days. Are you planning to update or upgrade to the latest Siebel release and are in need of more information on what changes you have to expect? Look no further. You're watching a monthly update summary provided by the Siebel Hub and Black Sheep IT Consulting, which is part of a playlist that provides you with detailed summaries of all continuous release updates going back to 18.7. Check the video description for a link to the playlist. If you or your team require up-to-date training for Siebel 22, be it a What's New workshop for experienced staff or foundational training for onboarding Siebel CRM developers or administrators, the Siebel Hub Learning Experience got you covered. You find a link to the Siebel Hub training page in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.